we continue today with our input integer component. Currently, the only thing we have is a foobar that gets returned, and it also shows on our demo page, and it just prints out foobar. One thing to mention before we continue, we also need to do slight adjustment to demojs. So because our input integer component will return a DOM element, we now need to change the code here and set it to document body append x, which is our input. So instead of inner HTML, we now append directly our DOM element, our component. And now we can continue. So we want to create a input integer. So this is an element. So we will need to create first our element, which we create with document create element, and we'll just make a div element, HTML element. It's a DOM element, so that we can interact with it in the browser. Next to it, we want this element to be protected basically from other code, because in our projects we will use many components and we don't want these components to clash with each other. So we make them nice and clean, and basically we use a technique to encapsulate them. And this technique is called basically attaching a shadow to our elements. So let's create a variable shadow, and we then attach this shadow to our element. And because we don't want to make the element open from the outside so that it's nicely protected, we also set the mode to closed. Okay, so now everything that we would attach or append to our element, we will append basically to our shadow. So we pretend that our element, that shadow is actually an element. So we treat shadow as an element. So now we say shadow inner HTML equals backticks, and we say we just want an input, and let's close this input. So this is another HTML tag. So you already know div h1, and now the next one is input. So let's see if we check our web page. It's undefined, of course, because we have to return the element. So we defined everything, but demo, if you remember, is appending to the body everything that input integer returns, but we didn't return anything yet, so we have to return the element. So let's see. Yep, we have a basic ugly input field. So now what we need is a little bit of styling. So how do we do that? So we will basically create a CSS sheet by calling a constructor new CSS style sheet. And then we will replace this empty default sheet with our theme. So let's call this replace sync, and we pass in the theme. But we don't have a theme yet, so how do we get it? Let's create a theme variable, and we will get it by calling a function getTheme. We also need to write the function getTheme. Function getTheme. So you see, every function looks like this. You have a function name, you have a name of the function, you have a keyword function, and then you have a name of the function, open close parenthesis, and then open and close curly brace. And now this function returns also a string, so we use backticks again, and inside we will add some basic styling for input. So the styling will be, for example, we need some padding. Let's it like this. And we can add some background color. For the colors, we will use HSL format. So you can open this hslpicker.com and then just basically decide for whatever background color you want for this input. So let's play around a bit. Okay, let's imagine we want this, so we can copy and paste this as a background color, save, and let's see. Okay, nothing is here, so let's reopen the inspect element, so the dev tools, and check the console. We have an error. Okay, I guess I did a typo here. T should not be capital. Okay, this looks better. Okay, our input is back, but there is no background color. What's happening? I forgot one part. So here we created a style sheet. Here we added the theme, but we forgot to do one more command, which is basically shadow adopted style sheets, and we tell what kind of styling should the shadow use. So we say that we want to use the sheet that we defined here, and we pass in the theme. So this is the theme that we want our shadow to use. Let's see. Yes, this worked. So let's do some additional styling. For example, we can add some padding, 8 pixels, maybe 6 pixels and 8 pixels. We can add some border radius, 8 pixels, make it nice and round. What else can we use? I have a little cheat sheet here. So maybe even bigger padding, 8 pixels and 12 pixels. Yes. Now we can add one more trick. So we want this input field, when it focuses, we want it to change the color. So let's say now is, so focus means like when we click on it, then it's in the focus. So we want to set the new color to be maybe this one. So when input will be in focus, we want background color to change. So let's see. Okay, so when it's in focus, it gets a new color. So these are like the basics of CSS. So this styling thing. Now you know how to create an element, how to make it, how to encapsulate it by using the shadow, and then how to apply styling. So this is basically like a very, very basic step that you will use almost always when you create your new component. So save this as a template. So whenever you'll start a new component, it will most likely look very much the same. Maybe this part will change. Maybe you'll not have an input, but it will be something else. But this is basically the very basic boilerplate.